You know Spell Slingers, and it's like super popular and really good with like Sean Plot or whatever.
Because Day 9 is love. The Day 9 show, yes, continue.
Okay, the next big thing that's gonna take the Magic community by storm. Spell Singers. We should make it. You can be the rap guy, I'll be the singing guy, and Brian will do production.
But who's Day 9?
What? I'll be Day 9.
No,
I'll
you
be
can't
Day 9.
be Day 9.
Are you kidding me?
You're
I'm
not
perfect for Day 9.
No, you're not good looking enough to be Day 9. I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry. No,
I'm
no,
equally
you're
as
not.
good looking as Sean Plot.
No, Sean Plot is a sexy, sexy man. Day 9 is Tasteless's brother. Like, damn.
The In Response podcast is brought to you by ShatterPause.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to In Response, a podcast where we bring you our take on what's going on around the world in Magic the Gathering. My name is Brian Kim, and I'm your host. I'm joined by my colleagues, Simon Gao.
Howdy, y'all. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Brando Gross.
Hey, everyone.
Alright, so we've had an interesting past week, I guess. We had GP Orlando, where we had a Cons Limited GP, and we also have an interesting deck that's kind of becoming a thing now in Modern. It's the Jeskai Ascendancy deck, where they put out mana dorks like Birds of Paradise and Sylvan Caryatid and, Storm Off. And we've also had...
I'm excited about this deck, sorry.
And we've also had some issues with MTGO, Magic Online. So there's issues with that. So pretty eventful. Let's start off with this Jeskai Ascendancy deck because it seems like Brando really wants to get in on this.
Yeah, this deck is sweet. Of course, we're talking about the standard version, right? Sylvan Caryatid, Rattleclaw Shaman, Jeskai Ascendancy.
No.
What? No, yeah. You get to go off.
I'm pretty sure that's not a deck.
You get the kill with Burning Anger. You can play Swan Song main deck. It's sweet. You just cycle through your deck, play cards like Heroic Strike, like Fate Foretold, Dragon Mantle. Nylea's Presence fixes your mana because 4 colors. Who cares? It's standard. This deck is sweet. This deck is gonna definitely take a standard best. It got 11th at the last SCG.
Well, I mean, I think we're more excited about the modern version.
There's a modern version? That seems unnecessary. You got all the pieces you need in standard.
You said the word Dragon Mantle.
That's 2 words.
Right, okay. So basically there are 2 versions. There's one in standard, the one that Brandon just talked about with basically all of those cards, Treasure Cruise in there too. And then there's the modern version. And the modern version has Birds of Paradise, Sylvan Caryatid. It has like another mana dork. I forgot what it
Arbor
runs.
Elf.
Arbor. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that.
And Noble Hierarch.
Yeah. So it runs those mana dorks, and it also runs cards like Gitaxian Probe, which cycles for free, and with Jeskai Ascendancy, untaps your mana dorks.
Manamorphose and Cerulean Wisps also cycle for free.
Yeah, Cerulean Wisp, which you may not know, is a card that just costs blue, and you untap a creature. It turns the target creature blue, and you untap it, and you draw a card. So, I mean, it's just amazing in this deck.
The joke is that Jeskai Ascendancy untaps. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Jeskai Ascendancy untaps all your creatures, which is silly when you're playing 1-mana cantrips and mana dorks, because you wind up playing the 1-mana cantrips for at least free.
And the fact is, in Modern, we don't have access to cards like Ponder and Preordain, which are just insane 1-mana cantrips because they're banned because they're insane. But we do have Serum Visions and Sleight of Hand, which are way better than any cantrips we have in Standard right now. So you basically get to cycle through your deck, untapping your mana creatures with Jeskai Ascendancy until you kill your opponent with your 1 Grape Shot.
Yeah, and that's not even talking about one of the biggest parts of the deck, which is the Glittering Wish. It runs 4 Glittering Wish, so that basically you're running 7 copies of Jeskai Ascendancy, and you also have a Wish board in your sideboard. So I mean, it's running all sorts of things. Like it runs I've seen a version that runs like Simic Charm, Wheel of Sun and Moon,
Meddling Mage, Abrupt Decay, and Guttural Response. I love Guttural Response.
Yeah, I mean, like these are. Yeah, I mean, of course they all have to be multicolored because that's what it wishes for. So you have to get a little bit creative. I've also seen. Yeah, Wear and Tear.
What's a good one is Rakdos Charm. It's very good against Twin.
Yes, it is very good against Twin. It's just a good
Turns
sideboard
out
card in
when
general.
turns out when you have your choice of like 15 cards, you have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
One might say you have
cards you can just fit in as a whenever I need it, I'll get it.
Yeah, because Glittering Wish lets you, get any card from your sideboard as long as it's multicolored for just a green and a white as a sorcery, which means you can get Jeskai Ascendancy. So you have 7 pieces of your combo, and you're playing 15 mana creatures and 7 equivalents of Jeskai Ascendancy. The deck is pretty consistent.
And the rest is just 1 mana cantrips.
It's all cantrips. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Right, so we basically are just
it's
kind of
not all
talking.
cantrips. There's a
That's true. Treasure Cruise,
Ancestral Recall, just thrown
yeah.
in.
There's,
A casual ancestral recall thrown in.
hey, there's also one Grape Shot for your win condition, which I have to say
You
is a
don't
great
even
win
need
condition.
Grape Shot.
I've seen versions with Grape Shot. I've also seen a version with Blood, which is in the sideboard.
Yeah.
So you just wish for it, and you just use that blood, with your creature, and you just win.
Yeah, it's Flesh and Blood, from Dragon's Maze with Fuse, where you get to pay red and a green as a sorcery to deal damage to a creature or player equal to the power of target creature you control.
Because it turns out Jeskai Ascendancy also gives all your creatures +1/+1.
Yeah,
time.
so
It does a lot.
well, I think that Grape Shot's a lot better because I would probably have Blood in the sideboard and play Grape Shot, because Grape Shot you can't just get countered, or like removal spell doesn't deal with Grape Shot because it has Storm. Like if they have a removal spell or a counter spell for your Blood, you're screwed. But Grape Shot works. The problem with Grape Shot is that you only can have one, and it's in your deck, so it can get milled or removed with somehow, like if they Thoughtseize it or something like that.
You also can't tutor for it with Glittering Wish.
But
Yes.
you're going to draw through your whole deck, so that's not that big of an issue. The nice thing is that you can just play 4 Glittering Wish, which means you can have effectively 4 copies of Blood. So I think that playing 1 Blood in your sideboard is worth it in this deck, but Grape Shot, you should definitely have a main deck Grape Shot. I think the card's just actually a really great win con.
Yeah, one thing I actually want to point out is because of Glittering Wish, it's a little bit resilient to Slaughter games. I mean, not that it's like a huge problem because it goes off on like turn 3, but like
Yeah.
Just Slaughter Gaming for Jeskai Ascendancy still leaves them with 4 copies of Jeskai Ascendancy in their deck.
The crazy part about this deck is that it's not just like, turn 3 you play your Ascendancy, and if you happen to have a Jataxian Probe, then you get to go off. All of your combo pieces are mana creatures. So you get to ramp into a turn 2 Ascendancy, potentially go off on turn 2, and if not, then you get to go, you have your whole turn 3 of 3, 4, 5, all this mana that you can spend playing the Ascendancy if you haven't played it already, or, so because your combo pieces are mana creatures, it really makes it a fast combo.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that this deck has the possibility of comboing off on turn 2 with the whole, turn 1 Birds, turn 2 Jeskai Ascendancy, Gitaxian Probe, like, it's just, it has the ability to have these great starts with, pretty good hands. Obviously, I mean, any deck with really good hand has the ability to do really well in Modern, but, it's one of those things where it's kind of scary how fast it can go off. So, we've been kind of alluding to it a little bit now, but this deck is apparently very fast. It has, turn 3 wins, can sometimes go off on turn 2, and is very, consistent because of the wish in the main board, the 4 wish and the wish board in the sideboard. So, it has the consistency and it has the speed. So the question really is, what is going to happen with this deck? I mean, there's plenty of options for hate, although it's a little bit harder to hate out this deck because it's really redundant, and you might Thoughtseize something, but you can just kind of replace it eventually. You can destroy the Jeskai Ascendancy with enchantment removal, but they have 7 copies, so they can just play another one and then go off. Or they can kill the mana elves, but if they can stick 1 mana elf, it's possible that they can go off.
So this deck, we're talking about it. It's so cool. But here's the thing: Sam Black and Sam Pardee have both been playing it a ton, and they both say that it's really insane. Sam Pardee has 4-0'd 3 or 4 daily events on Magic Online playing this deck. Sam Black posted an article about it on Star City Games with some options and sort of a wrap up, and he's saying that this deck is just really, really good, and these are pros that have Pro Tour top 8s and GP wins and stuff. It's
Which
not
means
just
they should be 4-0ing events, to be fair.
That's true. No, that's true. But they also say they say that they think the deck is real, and they're unlike us, their opinion matters.
Well, but the question is, I mean, this is very early in the format, by which I mean the format with this deck in it. So, I mean, there's going to be hate. People are going to start putting sideboards, dedicating sideboard slots to hating this deck out if it becomes too big. And the question is that going to be enough? Or is this deck just going to, be one of the most dominant decks in the format? Because it looks like Old Storm is kind of not, kind of on the fringes, and this is just the new Storm deck, which is quite different, but, is playing off the whole, Storm idea, and seems a lot more resilient than the Old Storm.
I mean,
I think it's more resilient than the Old Storm in that, it's a little bit more redundant. It can dig through its deck a little bit faster. But, it's fair in the sense that they have more ways of interacting with it. Basically, your combo pieces are all permanents, right? You have creatures and enchantments. No matter what color of Magic you're playing, you have the opportunity to bring in a card that deals with one of two of those, right?
Well, I mean, the Old Storm did have creatures and enchantments too. I mean, they have Goblin Electromancer.
That wasn't their plan. They weren't the combo pieces. They were just there to help facilitate the combo. They could just easily kill him without those pieces. This Storm deck, they absolutely need both those pieces out on the battlefield in order to kill you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Storm can just go off with just some rituals and a Past in Flames, whereas this deck, I think this deck's actually more like old Eggs than Storm, because not only does it have a ton of cantrips in its deck, like Eggs did, but it also gets to play, 7 copies of its main win condition, like Eggs did before one of them got banned. So I think and not to mention that it's a deck that takes a long time to go off. But at the same time,
it's still interactable. You can't really interact with Eggs outside of a counterspell. Every color can, handle in some fashion or another this Jeskai Ascendancy deck. Whether it be through enchantment removal or creature removal or counterspells. All the colors have at least one of those.
Right, and that kind of makes this deck really interesting because it has that added level of resiliency, but it also has more interaction involved in it. So, I mean, it becomes this interesting thing where is the resiliency going to be enough where it's going to overpower the removal and the answers that's eventually going to... I mean, I can believe that right now it's really strong because people don't expect it and aren't dedicating as much, sideboard slots or even mainboard slots to it, to addressing this deck. But, once people start adjusting to it in the meta, how big is it going to be?
Yeah, I mean... I think that we're going to have to wait for a big Modern tournament to happen, and we'll see if people play it, and we'll see if it does well. Because it exists, and it's being popularized a little bit, and people know about it, but I don't think people are really going to be respecting it with, real card slots in their deck until it actually performs well at a tournament, which it might never do. So it might just end up being a deck that's, a lot worse than we thought it was, and people are just going to play it for fun, and it's Tier 2 or Tier 3. Or maybe it does insane at a tournament, and then people put sideboard cards in their deck, they play some hate, and then it becomes bad. So, or maybe it's just awesome. It doesn't have to be one of those two, and then eventually it's bad. Maybe it's just...
There's some, sideboard cards, or just, cards in Modern in general that are already decent against the deck, right? Adon the Great Rebel is close to unbeatable, right? You just can't beat that card.
Well, I mean, that's why they have the wear and tear.
Sure, but, even something like a Leyline, the white Leyline, is that the right one?
Oh, the Sanctity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets half the way, and, it makes them slow down a lot.
Well, I mean, they have the alternate win condition of kill you with a 2021 Birds of Paradise.
Sure, but, it's not Sylvan Heritage anymore, right?
Yeah.
The win condition isn't a hexproof creature anymore, which leads to a lot more interaction as well. And, slowing them down is also a big thing because your plan against them is just to kill them before they kill you. And they don't really have much on the ground to stop you from doing that. So...
Yeah, that is fair. I mean, obviously, Sylvan Caryatid is the best, one of the best cards in this deck because it has, it's a mana elf that has hexproof.
If you just narrow the ways they could possibly kill you into this, if you just take away 2 of the possibilities, that might slow the deck down enough that your plan of just dealing them 20 damage as quickly as possible actually just gets there.
Yeah,
right. But I mean, the thing is, in your example of, for example, the Leyline Sanctity, they'll just go off. They'll find their Glittering Wish. They'll wish for a Wear and Tear, and then they'll destroy the enchantment and then Grape Shot you.
I mean, that's still slowing them down a decent amount.
Not really. If you're able to go off, then you can probably generate enough mana and draw enough cards to pull that off, like, almost for sure.
Right. I mean, well, Eidolon is kind of a problem, though, because you can't go off with Eidolon out.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go off maybe, like, partway there, and then if you don't find a wear and tear, then you're just done. But, like, Eidolon is an actual issue.
Or just, like, the 2 white hate bears from the recent set, where, like, players can't cast more than 1 card a turn, and players can't drop more than 1 card a turn.
Yeah, Spirit of the Labyrinth and Eidolon. Rhetoric, yeah. And there's also Aethersworn Canonist that does a similar job.
Yep.
So there's hate.
Right.
It exists, but it doesn't mean people are playing it. I mean, there's a Hate Bears deck. They play Aethersworn Canonist and probably Spirit of the Labyrinth too. But it doesn't mean that you're going to face that deck because it's kind of tier 2.5 and they're going to draw their hate and blah, 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 you know?
Right. I mean, this deck is kind of hard to judge overall in terms of...
to turn off treasure cruises?
That is interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. That is a legitimate consideration.
Or even just like Anger of the Gods, like.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, Anger of the Gods works. Except what if they just go off before you have Anger online?
Oh, Dryad Militant.
That's pretty best case hand.
You could use Dryad Militant to turn off Treasure Cruise.
Well.
Yeah, I mean you could. The idea is that what is it? Rest in Peace is found more often in sideboards because it's a more common piece of hate.
Yes, yeah, Dryad Militant is bad. So
No,
I know. I knew that going in. I thought I'd throw that in there so you guys didn't think I'm like, yeah, Dryad. No, yeah, no, yeah, but yeah, no, yeah.
I think what I like about that deck too is that like it plays that kind of like normal sorceries. Like they play a mana creature, like in your mind, you know, like what the worst case is, right? Because like you can kind of see it coming. If their board is empty of creatures, you know their combo isn't coming the next turn.
That's not true.
It's not completely true, but it's close enough to true. That,
it's mostly true. That's right.
There's one like cantripping haste thing, like whatever.
No, you Twin Flame.
Yeah.
Twin Flame or Crimson Wisps can help you go off from your hand.
Yeah.
So one thing though, if you are playing online, I heard there was an issue with wishing for Wear and Tear, where it doesn't recognize it as a multicolored card, so you can't wish for it.
There are bugs on Moto. I don't believe you, Brian Kidd.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
that does not sound like the Wizards I know and love.
You know Wizards? How many?
I have a deck full of them somewhere.
Oh,
trying to build Wizard Tribal. It doesn't work.
Is it because it bugs out? Anyway. Yeah, so I mean, so if you want to have Eidolon of the Great Revel, apparently it's resilient to, being wished for, getting the Wear and Tear wished for.
I mean, you can still play Shattering Blow. Nope, that's artifacts. Never mind.
Nope.
I lied about that. You can't play Shattering Blow.
Yeah, so, but anyway. But anyway, speaking of Moto issues, there was a little bit of a controversy over the past weekend, I think, where there was a PTQ, and I think the issue was that the players were forced to play with 80 card decks or something. So then they played it out, and it was a bug in Moto basically during the PTQ, and so they just played it out and
the PTQ.
Yeah,
so the top 8
in the top 8, several of the people who were in the top 8 wanted to submit their decks because it was a draft. It was a sealed PTQ, so they did their draft and then they had their decks and they're like, here's my deck. But they couldn't submit it, so they ended up having to play with the 80 card default deck with a bunch of random basics thrown in.
Yeah. So and then they actually played it out because they were like, well, and I mean they didn't catch this until after. And after they caught it, apparently the winner of the PTQ was called and asked to play it over again because
it was one of the people who had the bugs. So I think he actually won a round and made top 4 even though he had an 80 card deck. And Mike Turian gave him a call and was like, "Hey, can you do the event again? Can you do the top 8 again?" And he said no. But what really what we've seen with the Wizards made a public announcement, and that's that they're going to honor the original result. the winner is going to get to go to the Pro Tour. All the prizes are going to be assigned, but they're also going to redo the top 8. They're going to do a new event. They're going to redraft with all the top 8 people. And then the winner of that top 8 is also going to get to go to the Pro Tour. And then all the prizes for that top 8 are going to go to the people, that they would go to. So they're effectively going to give out the prizes twice. And if the winner, same person from before, wins again, they'll just move the Pro Tour invite to the second place.
Right. So, I mean, they're basically just saying, well, we screwed up, so we're trying to, do the best we can. But, I mean, this is a running issue that has been on. I mean, like, it's more prominent in stuff like PTQs, obviously, because there's so much online. And in stuff like a PTQ top 8 draft, where something like this messes up, I mean, it's very prominent. And so, I mean, the question is, well, I mean, I think we've talked about this before on this podcast about Moto and, what's going to happen with all these bugs. Well, I mean, this is getting to the point where, I mean, the guy was called by so, like, I mean, that's a pretty serious thing. This is getting to the point where it's almost unacceptable. So, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's at the point where, like, Wizards clearly should not be trusting their product. Like, I think that's evidently clear, especially for, like, huge, like, important events like PTQs. I don't understand why they can't just have, like, a judge watching over the event and being on call for whatever issues come up.
They have one.
Then why did the event finish before they caught the issue?
They actually said
that should be something that they immediately handle.
You're right. It says it actually in their announcement. They had a DEC in charge of the tournament, which is a digital event coordinator, which is exactly what you wanted them to have. And they have a policy, and based on their policy, they should have immediately canceled the event, immediately set up a redraft, but instead they didn't. And they said in the thing that that's wrong, and that they shouldn't have let that happen, and that they're going to be a lot more diligent about having their DECs have the proper behavior in the event of a bug like this.
How was that? So I don't understand how the event coordinator didn't figure all this out on the spot. Like, if you have guidelines in place, like, how do you just not follow them?
I mean,
I
don't know.
I mean, that just reeks of incompetency, or somebody who's clearly not paying attention on his computer.
Yeah, like, I mean, it looks like the DEC that was there at the time just kind of failed in his duty. So.
I mean, I'm assuming he was just AFK, and, like, nobody could reach him or knew how to reach him at that point, right? Because you don't let something like that go on without, like, at least calling somebody, right?
I mean,
like,
maybe the DEC saw the bug and then started making frantic phone calls and talking to people like, we gotta fix it, and then they sort of made the decision like, oh, should we cancel it? Oh, it's kind of too late, but I don't want to, I mean, look, this guy won his round with his 80 card deck, he's not gonna want to restart, what do we do? Like... Put
the tournament on pause
the thing
for
is,
a second. Just like,
yeah, like, the thing is, that option is actually a little bit more troubling because that means that, he was there, he was doing his job, and they still failed.
I mean, I think the most reasonable explanation that gives the people at Wizards the most credit was that their tournament organizer just wasn't paying attention while this happened. And that's not very flattering.
I mean, there are definitely plenty of explanations for what happened, but the gist is that they know that there's a problem, and they're not gonna let it happen again.
I mean, that's what they said. Like, I feel like every PTQ they've had on Moto has resulted in some drama or another ever since version 4 came out.
I mean, that's not true. Like,
I mean, it's close to true. I mean,
no,
they took them down for a while. Like, I'll give you that. Like, they avoided problems because of that.
No, what I'm saying is that the only PTQs on Moto that you've heard of have ended in some sort of drama. Well, guess what? You only heard about them because there was drama. There have been plenty of PTQs that happened that none of us knew about because they just happened and we weren't paying attention and nothing bad happened. It's only the PTQs that have drama that get publicized like this.
But the fact that, like, I hear about these dramatic PTQs, like, once every, like, 2-3 months is pretty unacceptable at this point.
It's a problem. But, I mean, they never... they never have the same issue. Like, they're pretty good about, we had a problem, we're not going to let it happen again, sorry. The problem is when they have a new problem the next time that they didn't anticipate, or that they did anticipate and failed to prepare for sufficiently.
Sure, but, like, they're not expecting the worst when clearly they should be. Like, they're clearly not prepared for anything bad to happen.
I mean, they actually explicitly prepared for something bad to happen.
But it didn't work. Like,
Yeah,
the
you're right.
preparation didn't mean anything.
They need
so
to.
So
They
it's
need
like
to be more
basically
prepared.
didn't prepare at all. Like, it didn't matter what. Like, they weren't ready for the situation. They weren't adequately prepared because it didn't go right.
Yeah, they weren't adequately prepared, and hopefully they will be in the future. Hopefully. They say they're gonna try, and that's kind of what happens.
I mean,
every
it just
time.
astonishes me that like all like the real life paper Magic events I've gone to have been like beautifully run. Like I've never had a problem there. But Wizards
That's
can't
because
even...
it's really easy to run an event in real life.
I imagine
that's not true.
it's
I wouldn't
true.
say it's
that's
really
not true
easy.
as well. And I'd argue that it's much easier doing a digital event. Much easier. And Wizards can't even get that straight. And I think that's pretty ridiculous.
I mean, the problem with making a product like Magic Online is that they don't have people they don't have enough people to fix all the problems because
Then
it's
how
a
come
lot.
my local LGS can come in and like run a PTQ, but Wizards can't even do one for itself? Like all you need is just like a few judges there, and all the problems should be handled.
Because judges can do anything. They can walk over to a person and tell them to do something.
And Wizards has no control over their product. Wizards like, well,
you're right. That's exactly.
There's an issue here. You guys have to deal with it. We can't. It's
you can't just go into Magic Online as an admin and mess with games. That's not how that works. You can't just go and fix it. You can't just go and rewind a game state in Magic Online like you can do in real life. You can resolve so many issues in real life just by being there with the person. And like, you know, the problems that arise in real life are different from the ones that arise online.
So Simon, is what you're saying that they should have that kind of admin privileges of being able to like rewind game
I don't
states?
see why they shouldn't. Like they should have full control over the online game because they they can't afford to have something go wrong. And it's pretty easy just to have somebody going like, no, let's restart, let's start over. Worst case, I'll just like make a new game and just have a board state like this, and you guys go on from there. Like, basically like resume from replay. There's no reason not to, especially when you know that things are probably going to go wrong.
I mean, the reason not to is that it takes programmer time, and right now their focus is on getting stuff working, not adding new features. But the problem with their plan,
like, putting this in is a band-aid because like they haven't fixed all the problems. And if you have a band-aid solution, like tie that over until you actually go and fix the problems. Like I feel like that's the thing you should be focusing on.
I think you underestimate how hard it would be to implement something like that. I think it would take
from
like
replay. They have replays already. You can go on.
That's not the same thing at all.
Just jump. It's close enough though. I mean, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. I grant you that, but it should,
close enough doesn't mean anything.
If a game like StarCraft can have resume from replay, there's no reason why like a very strict state-based game like Moto can't.
I mean, there are reasons. It's tough. I mean, obviously they could develop something like that, but the fact is that almost all of the developers' time is spent incorporating the new sets into Magic Online as quickly as possible. And the fact that they don't have, like, they only have 5, 6, I don't know how many people they have, but it's however many people they have are, you know, spending all their time getting the new cards to work, because that's really hard. It's really, really hard to add 250 new cards because they have to work with every single Magic card that's ever been printed, ever, in the whole history of Magic that's on Magic Online. You can't just be like, oh, they work with each other. No, they have to work and have no bugs with any Magic card in the history of Magic Online. So the fact that it takes so much time for people to take a new set and put it on Moto means that they don't have enough time to fix the bugs, and that's a huge problem. I
mean, I still don't think it's that hard to recreate like a state from a game that's basically just like very strict states. Like just like these cards in this guy's hand, these cards in this guy's hand, these are the cards on the table. Go.
Right. So what you're saying is, you know, they have discrete time, whereas something like StarCraft has continuous time.
Yes, and StarCraft is like, you're just watching replay, you're like, oh, let's start playing from here. If StarCraft can do it, there's no reason why.
I mean, to be fair, they're both discrete. StarCraft is just less discrete.
I mean, yeah, but like, Magic
it's a computer.
Like
everything's discrete.
Well, Magic is ridiculously discrete. Like, it's just...
Okay, like, I was using those in the colloquial sense, not in the technically correct sense. So
sorry.
It's much easier to recreate a Magic state than it is to recreate a StarCraft state.
Yeah, and I feel like that is fair. But
think
yeah,
that's
so
actually-
I think we're kind of getting to the point where we're like beating a dead horse here. I mean, obviously
It's what the
it
horse
has
says.
issues.
It's what the
The
horse
dead horse
says.
is Simon.
What? I don't think we're beating Simon here. Like that seems
I'm
kind of.
definitely beating him in this argument.
All right. Well, we're running a little bit short on time, so let's finish off. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about GP Orlando or anything about Cons Limited?
Sorry, did you say Cons Limited?
All right, I'll take that as a no. So let's just move on to our last thoughts then. So Brando, since you were so excited to not talk about GP Orlando, what are your last thoughts?
Frank Lepore and Melissa Tortora are so cute.
That is about GP Orlando.
But it's my last thoughts.
All right, Simon.
I've been playing Smash on the 3DS for so long that I think my vision is getting blurred. Don't play that game with the 3DS mode on, like the 3D mode on. It's bad for you.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
I've been
this is
playing
just a
Smash
PSA.
like
Just turn the 3D mode all the way down. You will destroy your eyesight.
I've been playing Smash like non-stop, and I figured out quick to not have the 3D on. My eyes are.
Oh, it's
yeah,
pretty.
no,
It's pretty. Like, it'll catch you. You're like, oh, this is so much prettier. But no, stop. Don't do it. PSA.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then that's all we have time for. Thanks everyone for listening again, and we'll catch you all next week.